Welcome, Kiwanians and guests, to the weekly meeting of the Kiwanis Club of Roanoke. My name is Reggie Wood, and for the next 25 weeks, it's my pleasure to serve as your president. That's 25 weeks and counting. We have a very special meeting today. We have a report from our fellow Kiwanians who are members of the General Assembly, and we're going to sort of reverse some of the order of business. We will have the invocation by Reverend Don Chichester, our song leader, and this is a history-making thing. Not only is our song leader Kiwanian Chris Head, he is also one of the program presenters. I don't think that's ever happened before. Chris will be leading us in our state song that no one knows about. Pledge of Allegiance by J.C. Taylor, and introduction guest by Leanne Lincoln Hoker.
Thank you, President Reggie. You already identified that Ken Briggs works pretty much 24/7 on Kiwanis matters, and I'm proud to second that emotion and say that Ken's idea was to do this program today, and how timely it seems now, particularly when we're reading all of their achievements and positions in this morning's paper, to have 3 members of our club, which I think is significant, who hold state office. I wanted to briefly say, Chris, the song that you selected to the tune of Shenandoah is particularly meaningful to me because I'm actually not a native of Virginia. I'm a native of Ohio, and by way of Indiana, I came to Virginia about 50 years ago. And as Lloyd and I like to say, we got here as quickly as we could. We're proud to be adopted Virginians, even though we're not, even after we've been here 80 years, I know we won't be a native. Okay, we're very interested in staying in our time frame today and appreciate so many people. It looks like we did pretty well on the head count, and I want to thank those of you who brought guests for arranging ahead of time, as we have. I see 2 empty seats right at the moment, not very many more, and no wonder it's a full house because we've got 3 distinguished gentlemen, all of whom, as I said, are members of the club but also hold elected positions in our state legislature. We've arranged the program to hear our speakers first, particularly to accommodate schedules. Delegate Rasoul has a plane to catch, and he will be speaking first and then leaving shortly after to get to the airport. And thanks to the others for accommodating that as well. Chris Head, delegate, will speak second. State Senator John Edwards will speak third. We're right on schedule at this point, so we would like to hold each person's remarks to 10 minutes, and Ken and I talked ahead of time and agreed that the introduction, which he's beautifully written, by the way, is about 60 seconds. So you have about 9 minutes to speak. And I've been told by Mayor Bowers, who sponsored me in this club 19 years ago, that my job is to stay on the clock. So I will stand up, and we're getting close to time, because we do want to get everyone in and also allow time, although Sam will be gone, for Chris and John to answer questions for about 10 minutes. And then the plan is to get to our business portion of the meeting about 1:10 and still finish by 1:30 as we normally do. Our first speaker, Delegate Sam Rasoul, is a graduate of Lord Botetourt High School and Roanoke College, Valley Schools, of course, and has earned his MBA in international business. Sam and his wife, Laylee, have 3 children between the ages of 2 and 6. He is founder and CEO of Invigor, a consulting company that guides organizations through change for the digital age. Sam was elected to the House of Delegates in December of 2013 and has served 3 sessions in the General Assembly. He serves on the Privileges and Elections, Science and Technology, and the Militia, Police, and Public Safety Committees. He's been a member of our club since 2010. Please welcome Delegate Sam Rasoul.
Good afternoon, everyone. John reminded me the best political speeches that have ever been given to the Kiwanis Club were short. So we will certainly keep that in mind. Sounds like Ken stays real busy. Ken's already busy writing my first piece of legislation. He already brought me my first idea for next year. So Ken's all over the place. I guess that's the speaker's prerogative, taking a free brag buck right there on Ken. It's most certainly an honor and a pleasure to be representing the 11th District, which is much of Roanoke City. Nobody knows where these lines begin and end. We're Valley folks up here. We work for the Valley. And I've loved public policy, loved every minute of it. I appreciate the re-election bid last November, as you know, was really close for me and Mickey Mouse. But fortunately, we pulled it out. But I want to take a moment. There's a lot to talk about. There are lots of different issues to discuss. And we'll get to many of them. But I think what's most important is just the bond that's been created with this delegation. You know, a couple of people in particular that I've gotten to know a lot better this past year. Delegate Chris Head, I've gotten to know him personally on a different level. Of course, we have different views on issues, but I feel like we've been able to connect. Of course, Delegate Head has the few precincts I do not have in Roanoke City, and so we've been able to build a relationship, which is, I think, so important for Roanoke, and he's been very open and easy to talk with. Another person that I really believe, who's not here, who has really, I think, taken charge and tried to spearhead a lot of collaboration is Delegate Terry Austin out of Botetourt. Delegate Austin comes out of local government, so he has a different perspective. And because he's a tiny bit more seasoned than I am, comes with I think, a level of respect right from the beginning of a conversation, which I can really appreciate. And he's helped to kind of lead some of the efforts here in the Roanoke Valley, trying to bring our delegation even closer together around a variety of these projects. You oftentimes will read about in the news about Senator Edwards and I being in the same party, about our collaborations, but I want to let you know that it goes far beyond that. A few things that we'll certainly touch on. There were many successes in the budget and otherwise, specifically for the Roanoke Valley. I'll leave many of those up to my colleagues. A few things that I wanted to specifically touch base on was one of the biggest missed opportunities in our budget, which was a Medicaid expansion. Oftentimes that's confused with the Affordable Care Act. The Medicaid expansion is a portion of the Affordable Care Act. So lots of folks have a problem with the Affordable Care Act because it needs some tweaking for sure. I think there is broad consensus around that it needs some improvement, as did any large program that got its start here in the United States. But Medicaid expansion, of course, in my opinion, is a portion of that, and every business interest, every hospital, all providers are behind Medicaid expansion in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And the reason is very simple. It's because of fiscal purposes. There are billions of dollars sitting in your tax money with the federal government that we could bring back here. It's the single largest thing that we can be doing to boost our economy here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Unfortunately, that was the biggest missed opportunity. Even though we had a great budget, we had a lot of successes in this budget. And I really want to commend, there was strong bipartisan and Republican leadership on a variety of issues. One issue that's very important to me that I was pleased to see Republicans take the lead on is pre-K, early childhood development. In their actual education press conference, Republicans touted some of the benefits of an early childhood investments. And one of the most important pieces of pre-K legislation that came out was sponsored by a colleague of mine, of ours, Delegate Tag Greason, which starts a new way of thinking about pre-K. It's starting a pilot project with mixed delivery models, bringing private and public entities together. So I'm very excited about that. One big thing that I was real excited about, and of course it was the whole delegation working on this, was the fact that we kept, for now, Catawba Hospital open. Not only is Catawba Hospital the second largest employer for Craig County, it's not in Craig County, but it's the second largest employer for Craig County. It is the heart of so many critical services. And when you start asking around, mental health has a stigma, so not a lot of people like to discuss it. But if you start asking around, you'd be surprised how many people know someone who has, at one point or another, come through Catawba. And that's why it's so important to maintain that critical access here in the Valley. And for now, we've been able to thwart those efforts led by Richmond. So we're competing with Richmond in many different ways to stop the closure of Catawba Hospital. The reality is that Catawba Hospital will need to look very different in the future than what it looks now. It's an old campus. I would be a big fan of tearing the whole campus down and rebuilding something much smaller, which would serve the Valley, because we don't use most of the facilities right now. There's a couple floors that are not even habitable in the hospital. But building a brand new state-of-the-art facility to serve the whole region that ensures that everyone that needs care in the Valley will have that. And at the same time, partnering that with innovative ways of handling a lot of our issues in the community. So we've got to improve our community-based services as well. That's got to be part of the solution. So we can't just sit here and say we want to keep the old building open forever. We've got to be open-minded and have progressive discussions about how to handle this moving forward. One bill that I was happy to sponsor and that passed can help to maybe change volunteer health care the way we know it here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. It's called volunteer care. It's based off of a model down in Florida. They've gotten $1 billion worth of donated services. It's real simple. All health professionals need continuing education. This is the way it works on an annual or biannual basis. So all we're saying is you get to satisfy a small portion of your continuing education by volunteering in health clinics or in health departments. And those of you that, I know we're the Kiwanis Club, so we're known for volunteering. You know that when you're volunteering out in the community, it certainly is an education in and of itself. But the last thing that I'll mention before John yanks me is one thing that I'm very passionate about that I continue to push, even though there is bipartisan dissent on these issues, are good government issues. What does that mean? This year, I put in a bill on term limits. Of course, we hear a conversation about, well, we have term limits. We've got elections every year, in Virginia every year. Well, for the first time in history, this has never happened before, all incumbents that were up for re-election in November in the General Assembly, every single one of us was re-elected. Now, good news personally for us, but we have to take a serious look at our process, our elections process, because I think while you have obviously the three of the best in front of you, we need to ensure that the process is open, the process is working for you. And the reason why that's important is because it fundamentally puts trust into the system. And I think that we need to not only focus on things like term limits, but then another big issue is redistricting reform. My final point is, for the first time in history as well, there's a whole generation of folks, millennials, that do not identify with either political party, neither Republicans nor Democrats. A majority of millennials do not identify with either political party. No wonder why we are seeing the bases of both parties have the issues that they're having. So we need to really seriously think the way our system needs to evolve. As with any system, there's an evolution, and I look forward to continuing in those conversations. Certainly, if there's anything that we can ever do for you, don't hesitate to be in touch. I'm sorry, I'm in my flying attire right now, so I'm a little dressed down, and I'm on my way out. I've got to catch a flight at Roanoke International Airport. I'm sorry, Roanoke Blacksburg International Airport. But yeah, that's right. But it's an honor to be part of this group. It's been great working with my colleagues here, and hopefully we'll continue upon the success that we've had over the past several months. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sam. We fully understand your schedule, and I'm glad it worked out for you to be part of the program. And good luck on your trip to Roanoke Blacksburg International. Delegate Chris Head is a native of Georgia and graduated from the University of Georgia with a degree in music education and classical voice, as anyone who's ever stood next to him when we sing in his club would know. Chris and his wife Betsy have 3 children between the ages of 16 and 23, and he still has time to run a business, or at least with some help run a business and serve as a legislator. Chris and Betsy are the owners of Home Instead Senior Care with offices in Roanoke and Lynchburg, and Chris spoke to us about his business in the past 6 months. Chris was elected to the House of Delegates in 2011 and has served 5 sessions of the General Assembly. Delegate Head serves on the Health, Welfare, and Institutions and the Militia, Police, and Public Safety Committees. He's been a member of our Kiwanis Club since 2007. He was sponsored by Ezra Amos, I learned, and I did not say that Sam Rasoul was sponsored by Steve McGraw. Please welcome Delegate Chris Head.
Thank you, John, and it's a pleasure and an honor to be able to stand up in this capacity. Always an honor to speak to this club, but to be able to speak in this capacity is an especial honor because getting to represent the people of the district and having had them give me their confidence in the 17th district 3 times now is just a humbling thing. As Sam said, there are a lot of things that we are on opposite sides of. He brought up Medicaid expansion. I'm not going to talk about that unless you want to bring it up in a question, in which case I will be glad at that point to tell you all the reasons why I am vehemently opposed to what's always been in front of us with that. But this year was a really great session, particularly for the Roanoke Valley, and the collaborative nature of things that Sam talked about really is a part of that. And to sort of lay some of the framework before I talk about some of the specific bills that I was involved with that you may not have heard about as much, we all know that we do have to work regionally. And back when I first was the Republican nominee back in 2011, I got a phone call from Ansley Ware, who I had met in passing is all. He since has become a very good friend, but when Ansley called me, it was to say, we understand, I'm not telling you that we're throwing in the towel on my side and we're not going to put anybody up, and they ended up, I did have an opponent that year. Matter of fact, I've had an opponent every single step of the way. But he said, I'm not saying that we're not going to put anybody up, but it is a Republican district. A Republican ought to win the district. And he said, so I'm pretty confident you're going to get there. And I said, well, I appreciate that. And he said, but I'm calling you to let you know a couple of things. He said, you've got a party, and I've got a party. And there's a place for party. But you're going to find when you get to Richmond that the things that we fight about and that we have to go to battle over have a lot more to do with geography than they do with party. And to that end, I want you to know that I won't ever throw you under the bus or do anything to oppose you or make you look bad publicly. And I'd just really like to ask you to do the same for me, and hopefully we can work together to get things done for the Roanoke Valley. And I really appreciated that phone call. I will tell you that getting to serve with Ansley then for that next term really was remarkable, and he was true to his word, and it laid a great foundation, I think, for the way, and Sam stepping in and taking over that position in after Ansley's departure really laid the stage for how we need to be able to work. And John can tell you too. I mean, John, how many times did I come down and was in your office when we sitting there talking through stuff? Because it's also cross-chamber. But a lot of people don't think about the fact that and really realize that what happens in the House, we can get a lot of stuff done in the House, but then it can go down the hall to the other side of the building and get just bogged down in the chamber, in the Senate. And if we don't have some help on both sides, nothing gets done. And we've been very collaborative along that line, and it's having open communications. That doesn't happen in Washington, and that is really a problem. But it happens here, and I think it's galvanized by the fact that we're a citizen legislature. You know, we go and we do our jobs there, and then we come back and we go back to work, and we show up at Kiwanis Club, and we get involved in KPAD, and we do the things together, and we're standing there shoulder to shoulder as people in the community. And we have differing opinions on things, but we also know that there are the things that we have in common. And as long as we can keep that perspective, the Virginia way is the way we're going to continue to be able to get things accomplished. And it's really a grand thing to be able to watch. Now, that having been said, it wasn't easy. You've all heard the economic news that we got this year. The stuff with Deschutes Brewery coming in, with Eldor coming in, all of the things that worked together, all of the efforts, and I think the crowning touch of everything economically was the expansion of the Roanoke Carilion Research Institute and what's going on with that. It is a remarkable thing that we've gotten to be able to do with that. Right at 1,000 jobs that we know that we're creating, and these are not call center jobs. These are really, really great professional level jobs that will bring in other jobs, huge economic development that happen with that. But part of the reason that was able to be done was, first of all, we all worked together. But as much as that, it was a valley-wide initiative, and I've talked with Mayor Bowers about this and some of the others as well. The really unique thing that we had this year from an economic impact agenda was that the agenda for Roanoke City was also the agenda for Roanoke County, was also the agenda for Franklin County, was also the agenda for Montgomery County, was also the agenda for Botetourt County, was also the agenda for Salem. I mean, everybody was rowing the boat in the same direction, and, you know, sometimes the rhythm would get a little off, but we were able to all stand together and work together as a block. And when we can, as a region, come together and work like that, it is remarkable what we can actually get done. And I think this year was a great testament to that, and we're seeing the results of that. And I think we've got a lot of things teed up for the future in that. A couple of notable bills that I had that you may have seen, I think, in the paper today. There was the notification that House Bill 19, which was a religious liberties bill. There was a lot that was said in the paper about religious liberties that some was very controversial. What I put together was a bill that would simply protect pastors from being forced to do something that they don't believe in, while at the same time preserving the rights of anyone to do what they feel is right for them in their individual lives, so that we really establish a proper line and re-establish what our foundations are supposed to be. And I was very pleased to find out yesterday that the governor signed the bill. It was the only one of those religious liberties bills that he actually signed, and I was really happy to be able to be a part of that, and happy for the support that we got across there. Another bill of note for the Valley is House Bill 467, which was for manufacturing liability. We've gotten the issues with the Greenway and the expansion of that Greenway program and the barriers of that, and the governor has also signed that. He had not, Mayor, when we had our meeting the other day, we didn't know he'd signed it. He actually already had. But that has now been signed as well, which opens the way for us to be able to move forward on that and reduce the liabilities for the foundry. So that was a big deal. That one also took a lot of gymnastics because it went up through the courts committee. It was the only bill. Greg Habib is the chairman of civil courts. He said it's the only time in his memory that we've had a bill come up in civil courts, be tabled, be dead, be brought back, be carried forward to full committee, have then a substitute put forward on it as it was just constantly moving parts, and then getting it packaged through to a fashion we could actually get it through the Senate and then put it on the governor's desk and him to sign it. So it's just, I mean, a lot of efforts in getting something that seems very, very small, but I think will open up a lot for us. And then a couple of other things just from a tourism standpoint. House Bill 1229 that I carried that removed some of the barriers for us establishing the excursion train here in Roanoke, so that will go along. And just, I think it's a great thing too now that with House Joint Resolution 181, we named the 611 the official steam engine of the Commonwealth of Virginia. So all of those things are great things for the Valley. But anyway, it was a great session, and again, thank you for the opportunity to serve you.
Thank you, Chris. Senator John Edwards is a graduate of Patrick Henry High School, Princeton University, and the University of Virginia Law School. John and wife Kathy have 3 children and 6 grandchildren. After serving as U.S. Attorney of Western Virginia and Vice Mayor of the City of Roanoke, John was elected to the Virginia Senate in 1995, with 2016 making his 21st session in the General Assembly. Senator Edwards serves on the Courts of Justice, Transportation, and Privileges and Election Committees. John is a Legion of Honor member of the Kiwanis Club of Roanoke, having joined in 1977, 39 years ago, which is pretty remarkable. Do you recall, our records don't go back that far, who, or at least the ones that I could put my hands on don't. Do you recall who brought you to Kiwanis, John? Dick Rakes. Wow, impressive. Well, Dick's one of the 8 people who've been a member of this club longer than John, but remarkably, I think 3 of those 8 are here today. They would be John Shoemate, John Bradshaw, and Alec Bowman. Please welcome State Senator John Edwards.
Thank you. Thank you, John. My little pen, my little tag here is out there because the little handle broke off, so I can't wear it anymore. The song we just sang for Virginia, the new anthem for Virginia, Virginia song, Bud Robertson is really the father of that, the distinguished retired professor of Civil War at Virginia Tech. He decided we definitely needed a song, and so he took the music to Shenandoah, which, by the way, was going to be the song several years ago. I actually supported it. I thought Shenandoah, and the history of Shenandoah is another story, but it failed. And he said, let's take the Shenandoah music, and he sent it to some expert, somebody in the music field, who came up with the words. So thank Bud Robertson for putting it through, and it passed. I don't know if it was unanimous or not, but we all supported it here. I know I was one of the co-sponsors. So I thought I'd give you a little history on that, and a little word for Bud Robertson. He's now retired, as you know. I could say everything that needs to be said has been said, but I'm reminded of in the old Roman Senate, after a long debate and everybody talked and everything had been said, somebody was supposed to stand up and say, now that everything that needs to be said has been said, not everybody who needs to say it has said it. So I guess I'm the guy that needs to say what has been said already. But let me give you a few little details that you might be interested in. Education was a big winner. Everybody agrees with that. It was a big winner in the governor's budget. It was a big winner across the board. We're coming out of the recession. Our unemployment rate is down, lower than it was since, I think, 08 or thereabouts. And so we've been digging ourselves out of the Great Recession. We're not quite there yet. We're almost there. And in the field of education, let me just give you a few facts and figures. We decided to give teachers a 2% raise across the board. We added some additional teachers throughout the Commonwealth. And there, in the field of preschool, something that a lot of us have been talking about for a long time, we need to expand preschool. I like to say universal preschool. We did add 13,000 new slots for preschool. Now, that was a federal grant, by the way, but we did do something in that category. In the field of higher education, which is particularly important to us in this region, but also throughout the Commonwealth, we gave 3% raise to the faculty members and to state employees. And in addition, we've done something to try to put the relief pressure on the university to continue to raise tuition over and over and over again. And so we added $48 million in financial aid, which is very significant, and $100 million to increase access and affordability to our colleges and universities to do as they wish, but we've told them we want to keep that tuition rate down, and the tuition rate is not going up 4 and 5 and 6%, it's going up to 1 and 2 and maybe 2.5 or 2.9%. So that has helped a little bit. I had a budget amendment of $88 million to reduce tuition 5% across the board. Of course, it didn't pass, but I'd like to say it was probably part of that $100 million to the university to increase access, because more and more people are going to the universities, so that means more money from the Commonwealth. So higher education and public education were really the big winners, and I think everybody would agree with that. In this region, the most important thing I think we've done in a long, long time, and has already been mentioned, is the Research Institute. the Virginia Tech Korean Research Institute. I cannot overestimate the importance of that to our region. It's going to change the face of this region. We're moving from an industrial world, with the railroad being the king, to a new age, new information age, a new digital age, and now the new bioscience research age. And it is this research institute started in '08, along with a bond package Governor Kane put in to build the School of Medicine. And by the way, the School of Medicine has been extremely important. We've, like 4,600 students apply for 42 positions. These students could have gone anywhere. And I've looked at some of the resumes. They are just incredible. The third class is graduating this May from the Virginia Tech's Korean School of Medicine. Many of the students, by the way, live here at the Patrick Henry Hotel. But in addition to that, we built the Research Institute. Now, what we did was to bring in from Houston, Texas, Michael Friedlander, a PhD, who's the top brain research scientist in the country. And he's brought together a team of, so far, since '08 to the present time, about 250 research scientists, 25 different teams to study the brain. Fields of neurology, Alzheimer's, autism, the list goes on and on and on about brain and neurological issues. And the work they're doing is truly extraordinary. Over 400 peer-reviewed articles in nationally ranked journals like JAMA, the Journal of American Medical Association, New England Journal of Medicine, and so forth and so on. Over 30-some patents have been applied for. And that, the spinoff, you can imagine, the spinoff is enormous. And what they're doing now, the governor put it in the budget, but unfortunately the money committees pulled it out of the budget, so we had to go scrambling to get it back in the budget. And what we did was to try to explain to the money committees, the conference committee, that how important this really is. The conference committee, the original money committee said, well, you can put it off, maybe do it in a few years. You don't really need to do it now, and Tech is getting a lot of stuff in the budget anyway. And so I sat down with Virginia Tech people and said, listen, we got to deal with these issues. And we did, and I wrote a 2-page memo to the money committees, to the conference committee. And it so happens my desk mate is Emmett Hanger, co-chair of the Senate Finance Committee. We were elected at the same time, and across the aisle from him is Tommy Norman, to the other co-chair, good friends. So there were a lot of conversations I had on the floor with Emmett Hanger and also Tommy Norman about why this is so important. Now, let me explain why it's important. What this new research institute will do is an add-on to the existing research institute, 250 employees. This will add another 250 research scientists. And there'll be a new building. In the budget is $46.7 million in a bond package plus $21 million that Tech and Korean are going to put in, about $66 or $67 million for a brand new building right next to the existing research institute. Bring in another 250 scientists, and this, in the next few years, Roanoke is probably going to be known as the brain research capital of America. And that's a fact. What they're doing is internationally recognized. And we're bringing in the top scientists all over the country and all over the world. I've looked at some of the resumes, London, Stanford, Georgia Tech, Harvard, all over the place, coming to Roanoke. One of them said, you know, I never heard of Roanoke. And then I saw this opportunity, and I started reading about it. I came down and I said, I love it. Never heard of it. I love it, and he's here now as a research scientist. So this is, I think, the most important thing we actually brought back from Richmond. So my time has come. But I'll speed through the process, do a little speed reading. We got some more money for the Roanoke Education Center. Because of the recession, we're down. We've added another $250,000, plus the Culinary Arts Institute is on track to be open up probably next year or so. Amtrak is coming. We're on track for that, and I'll be saying something more soon about that because they are designing the high platform. It's they're about halfway through the design. The high platform is going to cost about $3.6 million, but the money's there. It's not going to come from the localities, Mr. Mayor. It's going to come from the Commonwealth, and it's on track to be opened up, and Amtrak should be here by the next summer of 2017. And I could go on and on, but let me tell you a couple of real simple little things. Miscellaneous. In the miscellaneous category, you'll be proud to know Virginia now has a state rock. Nelsonite. It's a rock that's indigenous to Nelson County. Creed Deeds put it in. Some student came to him, and he started looking into it and said, you know, this is an important rock, so let's call it Nelson Rock. Nilssonite. So, and we have a new state snake. That debate was really exciting. There was a young kid, in both houses, 10 or 11 years old. He studied and decided we needed a state snake. And he came up with the idea of the eastern garter snake. Now, it came to the floor of the Senate, and some people said, wait a minute, eastern garter snake? Come on, that's too timid. You know, we need a snake kind of like, you know, those flags, don't tread on me, you know, rattlesnake. So somebody put on the amendment to say, change it to timber rattlesnake. And the debate was ferocious. And they went on and on how the timber rattler is vicious, it's strong, don't tread on me, independence, it stands for all the things we believe in. And others say, no, but this little garter snake has all sorts of wonderful qualities too. So anyway, this little 10 or 11-year-old kid who came to the committees and came up with the idea, he won. And so now, if you want to know, the official snake is the eastern garter snake. So,
Thank you, John. I knew that Amtrak was actually here, I thought, when I saw you and Sherry leading Love Train last week's meeting. And I was glad to hear who the state snake is. I thought it might have been one of your colleagues in the legislature. We have time for a few minutes for questions. If someone would stand and raise a question, we'll repeat it for the audience. Jenny, you're getting a refreshment. Any questions for our speakers? I'm sorry, young man. What is your name? Mayor Bowers?
There are hospitals across Virginia that are being impacted financially by not having the expansion. So can you address that part of it?
Would both of you like to take a shot at that answer? Who would like to go first? I think Mayor spoke loudly enough that everyone heard
since
the
I
question.
strongly support Medicaid expansion, there's $2 billion a year in Washington, probably $4 billion now, that's sitting there. It's our money. We've already sent it there. It's just sitting there. Bring it back. Put people to job. Put people to work. Create 30,000 new jobs, cover up to 400,000 people. Yes, in our region alone, Carilion and Louisville are losing about $50 million a year together by not having Medicaid expansion. And then you go to the rural hospitals. They're in the red. They need the money desperately. So it's a financial issue, and I think it's a moral issue as well.
Okay, here's a little bit more of the story. First of all, the expansion of Medicaid was, as you know, wrapped into the Affordable Care Act, and what it did was took certain funding from Medicare and funding for other services and lowered those reimbursement rates, and then took people off of charity care by putting them into Medicaid. That was the plan. And the idea was that it was going to fund it at 100% of the cost to the states for the first period of time. And that period is now expiring. I think through 2018 is when that was going to end. And then it was going to go to 10%, or we may already be in the 10% area. The issue with it is beyond 2020 or 2021, there was no promise of how much money was going to be coming in from the federal government to pay for the system. And what we all know is everything in the past that the federal government has said, we're going to pay all of it today, and then we're going to taper it down to here, and then we're going to let you know. Well, what they let you know always is it's way less than we've been giving you. And in the states that have expanded it across the board, the states themselves are seeing billions of dollars of shortfall. And what we're faced with in Virginia is the mandate to balance the budget. And the only way to do that would be to have a pretty massive tax increase on citizens to be able to make up the difference. And that's a problem. It's a bad, the issue that we've got, and I think everybody is in agreement on from a Medicaid expansion standpoint, is that we do have a group of uninsured people out there that fall into a gap that we ought to be able to find some way to fix some of the problems with. But the parameters that we've been given from Washington are so bad that we can't accept that deal. And what I would really love to see them do with Medicaid in general, because I could stand up here and talk to you, things that I know about Medicaid from my own business and the things that I see from watching. We don't accept it at Home Instead, but we certainly interact with a lot of people that do and see a lot of that population. And there are things I could stand up here literally all day long and point out all of the problems with the state Medicaid program that we are not allowed to fix because they're federally mandated. And what I would love to see them do is take the money that they're sending now and just give it to us as a block grant and let us turn around and fix it and run a Virginia program. Because when it comes to ways to spend it responsibly and to streamline things, the Virginia way is really pretty good. Those areas where we do have the flexibility and freedom to do that, we can get it fixed. And I think we could solve all of those issues. The other thing is we've got to find a way to allow the hospitals to do some of the rural hospitals that have a disproportionately high percentage of not just Medicaid but Medicare patients, because in those rural areas, that's really where the problem is the cuts that came along with the Affordable Care Act in the Medicare program put those hospitals at risk. The Medicaid system was supposed to be able to help fill that in, but again, we were set up with a no-win situation. It was, if you're Star Trek fans, I've said this is the Kobayashi Maru of public policy. There is no win under the current parameters that are there. So we've got to have some reform, but that's why we haven't expanded it, and until we get a change, a big change in the makeup of the House of Delegates, Medicaid is not going to expand in Virginia. So.
I think in the interest of time, Vern, I hate to do this, but we do want to stay within our time parameters, and that was such an important question. We've basically used the amount that we allotted for that, but I would invite you and others to, can you stay a few minutes after the program, gentlemen? I think they would entertain your questions privately, but we do have quite a bit of business items. Let me just wind up by thanking our speakers, and before you applaud one more time, let me say that I think one of the things that makes our club the great club that it is, not only do we have distinguished members in the audience and distinguished members at the dais, but we've got people who respect the time of others, and we've done a good job on that today, and I know we're going to do that in the remaining 20 minutes. Thank you for letting me be a part of it. Please give our speakers one more round of applause.
Having passed through our regular order of business, we are now prepared to leave this time of friendship and fellowship to re-enter our everyday world. Before we depart, let's try and remember three things. First, to extend to every person we encounter the same kindness that we as Kiwanians share with each other. Second, let's be ever vigilant for ways to better serve the elderly, the downtrodden, and the young people of our community. And finally, let's take every opportunity to share the day with those with whom we sympathize and deem worthy of our regard. If we can turn these ideals into actions, we will truly begin building a better tomorrow. Live life, laugh loudly, recruit members, and sell K-Pad tickets. This meeting of the Kiwanis Club of Roanoke is now adjourned for the next 167 hours, and will reconvene next Wednesday, commencing at a few ticks past high noon.